Hey there everyone, Mazrock here, and today I want to talk about Protection Warrior, and kind of their state in 9.2, and why they're really not that exciting. As from the title of this video, I'm pretty sure that I'm probably not going to be playing much Protection Warrior this tier, unfortunately, and that kind of stuff like that. I've been pretty vocal about playing other tanks, but let's talk why. So, before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe. Really helps out. Big help. Please hit that button. If you're looking for a fun community Discord to come and join, you got tank questions or, any sort of questions whatsoever about the game, we've got a nice positive community going down there. Discord link down below. I stream on Twitch. Discord link again down in the doobly-doo. And lastly, if you are looking to join a guild on the Rivendare, Stormscale, Vash, there's a lot more in the server cluster. Bloodstorm is looking for all ranks. I'm looking to get a raid team going, so if you're a DPS or a healer or a tank, come on by, let me know. You can always message me on Discord as well. You can talk to me in the community Discord, join that. That's also going to serve as the guild Discord. Come on by and let's get raiding together. Let's have some fun. But let's get into Prot Warrior at this moment. So, before we get into what's wrong with Prot Warrior, we have to talk a little bit about the meta. Now, one of the things with the meta with tanking in Shadowlands is tanks with immunities or pseudo-immunities have really been on the rise from the start. So in 9.0, the tank to be was Vengeance Demon Hunter. In your metamorphosis, you could survive almost anything in high keys and still be and kite around as needed to be throughout the entire patch. And then in 9.1, 9.1.5, we had Bear on the rise, we had Paladin on the rise, because what happens with them is they have immunities. So you have the 30 seconds of Berserk for Bear, and you got Bubble for Paladin, although as gear has progressed, Paladin has shown to really be on another level, but that's not what we're talking about today. But why that's important is the healer meta is currently do as much damage as possible while keeping everybody alive. The more damage they put out, the quicker the pack gets killed. So it's very important to try as a tank to allow your healer to do as much damage as possible by properly using your defenses. And that includes your immunity. So if you're a Vengeance Demon Hunter, you use your meta. Pally, you use your bubble on big pulls. You save and you pull around it. You got 3-second Incarn Berserk for Bear. There's a lot of different things that you can do and do to make your life that much easier for your healers. Blood Decays just can literally heal themselves, and most of the time, unless they're in big trouble or they screw up, don't need much healing themselves. Paladins can heal themselves for the most part and don't need a lot of love, direct love from the healer. Same goes with Vengeance. You have a lot of ways to heal yourself. Brewmaster, a lot of ways to heal yourself. Warrior, no way to heal himself. No real way to heal himself at all, really. And that is kind of unfortunate because you are the most dependent tank on your healer. Like, there's no other tank that is as dependent on their healer. So if you mistime a defensive, if you don't play just right, you're relying on your healer to stop doing damage and heal you, which immediately slows down the pack, which is not that fun. Now let's talk about Prot Warrior defenses with that meta in mind. Prot Warrior has Shield Wall, a very strong 50% damage reduction, has Demoralizing Shout, sorry I forgot about the name about that, has Demoralizing Shout, which is a decent 45-second 20% DR, very, very strong, strong there. Has Spell Reflect, which will reflect one spell every 26 seconds, and is very useful versus tank busters. And then there's Ignore Pain. So we're going to kind of focus in on Ignore Pain here, and why it's a pretty terrible mechanic, but there's also Shield Block. Shield Block is basically a full resistance / ignore of all kind of incoming physical attacks. Really, melee hits are not your problem as a tank. As a Prot Warrior tank. On my other tanks, I take a lot more damage from melee hits, but on Prot Warrior, I don't take as many because shield block uptime is fairly reasonable at 80 to 100% on pretty much any single pull, and you're just not taking in that physical damage as much. But the issue with Shadowlands is the amount of magic damage coming in, which they've really, really ramped it up. So if you go into Halls of Atonement or Sanguine Depths, you have these casters that just literally berate you with Wicked Bolts and things like that. And you can really only stop one of them from hurting you at every 26 seconds. Spell Reflect is really, really good versus a big one-chunk hit. Reaping Scythe, Mordretha, you just get to ignore it. The Zymox dealer in DOS, I can't remember the name of it right now, but the broker in DOS, you can Spell Reflect that cast. You don't need to take the jump up. You just Spell Reflect and you take no damage. That is great. But when it comes to being just utterly peppered with magic damage, you are going to suffer big time. So as a Prot Warrior, you're very susceptible to bleeds, incoming magic damage, poisons, disease. So if you don't have the right healer for the dungeon that you're in a lot of trouble. You need someone that can get rid of poisons, diseases, curses, and all of that stuff off of you because you can't do it yourself. Where the Paladin Shaman combo is so nice because everything the Shaman can remove, the Pally can't, and what the Pally can, the Shaman can't. Nice combo. You work together. So that way you always have some sort of thing to remove those incoming debuffs, where Prot Warrior, you just don't have that. So you're forced to try and mitigate as much damage as possible, but you just don't have the amount of defenses required because Blizzard assumes that Ignore Pain is going to be one of your main forms of damage mitigation, which I hate to say, it's not. So let's go over here to Ignore Pain real quick. So Ignore Pain. You fight through the pain, ignoring 50% of the damage taken, up to a total amount. This can stack twice. Here is a 12-second cooldown. That is for Arms and Fury. You get rank 2 as a Prot Warrior, reducing the cooldown by 11 seconds. So every second you can kind of stack this up. But the problem is it costs 40 rage. So you are immediately given a choice when it comes to your GCDs and your main source of damage. Do you cast Revenge or do you cast Ignore Pain? And with today's threat, you need to be doing as much damage as you can, and you can't do it while kiting as a Prot Warrior. You can use a heroic throw, the glaive thing, which is okay, but I mean, it's still not great. And Ignore Pain is just to mitigate as much incoming damage as possible in higher keys. You're basically spamming Ignoring Pain while you have all of these Wicked Bolt stuff coming in, so you're losing threat, you're not doing damage. It's just anti-synergistic, and it doesn't work. Ignore Pain as an anti-damage mitigation is really not that good. It's really tough to play around, and it just kind of makes the class really unfun. So you have to try and work around other ways to kind of do it, which means that you have to play a very... so let's go over to the Protection Warrior talents here. So you have to play a very defensive build in the higher keys that you go, because you need to take as less damage as you can, because that's just how it works. So if we're looking at rating, let's look at Mythic Plus. This is kind of your basic build for Mythic Plus. We're using Heavy Repercussions, which means you get Shield Wall every 3.5 minutes of the Conduit. But it's all about extending your shield block. But again, you're not helping yourself defensively versus magic, poisons, diseases, or anything of that sort while you're working forward and kind of trying to build off of that and live and survive and all of that stuff, where other tanks are much more suited to the dungeons present at play in the current meta of Shadowlands. So that doesn't help. And now in 9.2, after having played, I've played Prot Warrior from 9.0 right up until the end of 9.1.5, where I was still playing it every week, but it had taken a serious downfall. Now we're getting tier sets in 9.2. Let's read the tier set. Consuming 30 Rage grants a stack of Seeing Red, which transforms at 8 stacks into Outburst, causing your next Shield Slam or Thunderclap to be 200% more effective, and grant Ignore Pain. Your 4-piece avatar increases the damage dealt by an additional 10%, decreases damage taken by 10%, and avatar instantly grants you Outburst. but it's giving you Ignore Pain, which is already not that good. Now, with Anger Management, you can get Avatar down to about 45 seconds, lining itself up with Ravager and your Spear of Bastion cast if you're playing Kyrian, which is very, very nice. But the problem is you basically need heavy repercussions to survive in higher keys, making you lose synergy with your Outburst tier set. And on top of that, if we've read this tier set and we take a look at what we were talking about Ignore Pain earlier, this basically does nothing for you defensively besides from 10% DR while Avatar is active, which is, I mean, it's okay, but it's not great. Like, if we stop and talk about that, it's really not that great. And this is the problem that Blizzard has with Prot Warrior right now, and they don't understand that their damage is not a problem. I can go into a 15 with a fully geared Prot Warrior and pull 8 to 9k damage. I absolutely can, but my healer's dealing about 2k less, and is just trying to keep me alive because I'm literally burning everything on doing as much damage as possible and not necessarily staying alive by stacking Ignore Pain as much as possible. So you really lose out on a lot of DPS, and this Prot Warrior set is great for your Prot Warrior DPS. You're going to go in there and you are going to blast with that tier set. It's going to be a lot of fun to really see those high numbers, but your healer's going to complain the whole time. And if you're into pushing keys and getting into the higher 20s and moving forward and things like that, trust me, as a tank, your main goal isn't to do as much damage as possible. It is to survive first. You need to be able to live through what's going on. And if you're not living, your DPS aren't bursting, nothing's going right, you're not going to time the key. That is how it works. So survive first and then DPS second, where the entire design of the current Prot Warrior is DPS first and hope you survive. It's just, there's a lot of anti-synergies with how the tier set's going to work, and then we bring in double legendaries into it. So basically the double legendaries, you're either going to be playing Night Fae, Necrolord, or you can do Necrolord and Keys, although it's probably going to be Night Fae or Kyrian being the most popular one. But all of those legendaries don't do much for you defensively. Again, they're all offensive. The Kyrian one gives you a bunch of extra critical strike damage while you're within your Spear of Bastion. That's great. The Night Fae one increases the damage done by the Ancient Aftershock, which is great, but again, not that great defensively, although Ancient Aftershock does kick a lot of things. So if you're a Prot Warrior and you're thinking about Night Fae and you're struggling to survive, try Night Fae. It actually might be a little bit better for you. One of the things I went, because I started Night Fae, I went to Kyrian. One of the things that I noticed with Night Fae was especially the big caster packs were definitely getting to me a lot more. It's Kyrian than Night Fae because I was using Ancient Aftershock on those packs and they weren't able to get kicks off because they were constantly being knocked down, which is very, very strong. But you can get the same bonus by having a Night Fae Warrior in your party anyway. So, like, why do you need to be playing that anyway? So it's kind of like a lot of anti-synergistic stuff that goes on with Prot Warrior right now, which just kind of makes it not fun. Because if I'm going into a key and I'm not living because I just don't have the ability in my kit to do so, that makes the tank not fun to play. That's just kind of how it works. So I really wish that the tier bonus set for Prot Warrior did something more for them defensively. Let's be constructive here. Like, perhaps instead of grant Ignore Pain, grants a full 6 seconds of Spell Reflect. Because if you look at Spell Reflect actually will go away after it reflects or deflects a spell. Aside from that, it will give you a full 6 seconds of magic damage mitigation, but that magic damage mitigation goes away on the first Wicked Bolt that gets cast. So perhaps an empowered Spell Reflect would be something really, really good that you could actually play and time that around to be a lot stronger versus a lot of those incoming hits. That would be something I would really love to see and would really change the game for Prot Warrior, give it a more interesting playstyle, get you to save those stacks maybe a little bit, or kind of work around them, or that avatar, so you could be like, I'm about to just get spammed by Wicked Bolts by 4 of these mobs, and I need a full 6 seconds of uptime on Spell Reflect to be able to live and have a lot more fun. That would be something that's great, versus Ignore Pain is just very lackluster, unfortunately. So that is the current state of Prot Warrior going into 9.2. I really hope they fix it. I'm not going to be playing it that much. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be playing mostly Pally, DK, and Monk. But I will eventually get back to Prot Warrior because I always do. But that's kind of the core issue when we're talking about Prot Warrior and why people say, oh, it's C tier or it's this or that, is it's a combination of their kit, the current meta, and what the dungeons are currently like. Because a little synopsis is the meta healers like to do damage while healing. The dungeons have a lot more magic damage, a lot more poison, a lot more bleeds, a lot more everything else that's not just physical, incoming physical damage. And Prot Warrior just doesn't have the kit because its active mitigation of Ignore Pain is just very lackluster. So, that's what's wrong with Prot Warrior in 9.2. I would love to hear your comments down below. Leave that down below. What other ideas do you have that could fix Prot Warrior and make it just an absolute juggernaut again in the tanking world? I would love to hear your comments and your feedback. Have yourselves a good day, and thank you very much for listening.